the back end and see if you have watched that live stream for about 10 minutes minimum, at least 10 minutes. So if I choose, so if you watch the live stream.
So welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to today's interesting section. Welcome everyone to today's interesting section. Let's start journeying as we go live in today's interesting and wonderful section. Please, if you have any question along to this interesting conversation, you are free to ask on the chat box so that justice is going to be done as we move ahead in today's interesting section. So waiting for others to connect live with us so that we can go live together into this section, so that we can go live into this section. Today we're looking at the market analysis. We're checking into the market and so the market news. What are the news that is actually trending in the market currently? That is what these are all what we'll be looking at in the course of today's interesting section. So waiting for others to join us so that we can go live into this interesting section. Waiting for others to join us so that we can go live into this interesting section. Please and please, if you get to follow our profile, please can you do follow our profile so that whenever we are live, you will be signified whenever we are live, and you miss out on any section as we move ahead in the course of today's section. Please and please, if you are ready to join us live, please can you type it on the chat box that you are ready to join us live so that I can see you and we will go live together in the course of today's section. Please and please, if you have any question along the way, you're free to ask on the chat box, in which justice is going to be done as we move ahead in the course of today's session. So now, looking at the market himself, looking at what is currently going on, the Bitcoin market. Let's look into the Bitcoin market before we go ahead. Let's look into the Bitcoin market before we go ahead and give basic analysis about what is actually happening in the market so far and others. So let's get basic information about and others. Now, one thing we need to know is that now looking at the market himself, looking at how the market is going, like I said earlier, looking at the movement of the market in which I actually analyzed before. Looking at how the market is going and all that, it's very, very important that we understand some basic information, which is very, very important that we understand how the market is moving, out to actually take advantage of the market. So if you have any project whatsoever you want me to analyze, please you can kindly type it on the chat box. Today I'll be doing basic information on the Bitcoin market. Then also I will give basic information on Pepper. Let's check also check Pepe before we go ahead to check the news. What is the trending news in the market so far? So let me bring out my charts. Now this is my chart. Let's use a new this thing for Bitcoin. Let's use a new mm, this is here, this one for example. So let's analyze this. For example, let's get basic analysis from this for example, to just get for us to just get what we're actually talking about. It is very, very important for we to understand what is actually happening in the market. What are the basic lines? Remember yesterday I actually drew this line here, drew this movement of the market, saying that okay, this is what's actually happening in the market and other. Now, if I bring out this chart here, you can see this area here, movement in the market here. You can see this area here. Let me bring this out. Let me use which this thing can I use here? I bring this out now, looking at this area here, you can see what is actually happening here. Now you can see this area again. We also have it here again. You can see the movement of the market in this area and others. All those points here are actually very, very important that we need to. You can see this area here again. Then we also have it still coming up to this area here again in the market. Now I'm just trying to give you guys a rough sketch of what is actually happening in the market now. Looking at what is actually happening in this area again in the market. So if I actually drew my line from this area here, looking at the market area here, so okay, if I drew this line here from this area here, now looking at the market himself, let me change this to this area. Now we actually expect, now remember, just in my past sections that I've actually explained the market, we actually predicted the market movement. We actually said that okay, this is how the market is actually going to move. We actually predicted this move that we are currently seeing the market, this move in this area here that we currently notice in the market. So now what is our next prediction and price of the market? Where is the market currently going into? What is our next area of interest of the market? Well, I actually said this market has actually come to this area. Now we're actually seeing some movements here in which the market might actually come up to get to this area here in the market. We will see it come down again to this area here. Then we'll see a move in the market towards this area again in the market. Then it might come down a little bit, here. See the market moved, even though we might likely see the market still move up to this area again and other. Well, that is not actually all that we're actually expecting in the market. We are still expecting the market to still come down again, come down to this area here again in the market, come here again in the market, then come here. It might actually come down here in the market and all that. So it is very, very important. It may actually fall down here into the market, and immediately it gets to this area here that we notice in the market, we might likely see some move. We might likely see some basic move in the market and all that. We can see the market. We might likely see the market coming up to this area here, coming from this area here, pushing up to this area here in the market, up to. You can see the market here, we might likely say something like this likely coming up or likely happening in the market and all that. So it is very, very important. All this, so from this area here that we have in the market, from this area here, like I actually predicted that the market is actually going to come down up to this 25 area, 23 thereabout. So now if I move the market towards this area here that we have in the market, if the market comes down up to this area based on the wind here that we notice here in the market, then we can likely see some move on what we should expect. Now looking at this area here, looking at all this movements here that we notice here in the market, looking at all this movement that we are actually noticing here in the market, let me bring this out again. Looking at all this area here, looking at the movement of the market in all this area here, it's actually a very, very important that we take note of all these points. It's very, very important that we take note of all these points when looking at the market movement. What is currently going in the market? How can we actually take control of the market when looking at it on the real sense? And all those points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement. And so based on this area here, you can see what is actually happening here in the market, the market prediction area, how the market is moving and other. Now you can see this area, this point here that we notice here actually gives a sign of a form of price rejection at a support level. So in this area here, it gives a price rejection level at a support level when looking at it. So it is very, very important that we understand all these points. All these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market, when we need to take note of when understanding what the market is saying, how we can actually go about, what are the basic information we need to take note of when looking at the market and all those factors are actually very, very important that we need to take note of. Please and please, if you're just joining us for the first time and you're listening to me, you are welcome, you are welcome, you are welcome. If you have any project whatsoever that you want us to actually analyze, please, you're free to ask on the chat box so that justice will be done as we move ahead in the course of today's section. As we move ahead in the course of today's session, it is very, very important. If you have any question whatsoever, that you want us to do justice to in the course of today's section, you are free to ask on the chat box as well. So now you can see this movement here. You can see from this area here, let's bring it here. From this area here, you can see what actually happened here. Now if I bring it here like this area here, same thing also happens here. From this point here, same thing also happened here. From this point here, you can see the breakage on this point here. You can see the movement of the market. So it is all those points here are actually very important that we need to actually take note of when trying to understand what is actually happening in the market. And now this area here is actually the old when looking at the market. This area that we're actually noticing here actually brings about the hot news in the important point that we need to take note of when looking at the market, when looking at the areas of movement, what is actually happening in the market, and all those points are actually very important that we need to take note of. Now looking at how the market is moving from this area, let me bring this out again. Now you can see from this point, let me not use this, let me bring this. Let me use this. You can see from this area here, you can see this movement from this area here, that you can see this movement from this area again that we notice that we're actually noticing in the market. Now you can see from this area, I'll actually be explaining all these factors. I'll actually be explaining as we keep moving ahead in the course of today's section. So now looking at this, if I actually bring this from here to this area here that we have in this maker, to this place, and now looking at the market. Okay, now what is the next move of the market? What is the next move of the market? We said that okay, we are looking at the market still looking down up to 23 thereabouts in the market. So if I actually bring the market down up to that area, then are we still going to see a move upward in the market? Are we still going to see a move up, which is actually very important? Now looking at this area here, which is around 19, looking at this area here, which is around 19 points and thereabouts. So looking at this area here, looking at the markets here in this area, okay, bringing it here again. Looking at this point here again in the market and all that. Now, if the market actually comes from this area here, if the market actually comes from this area here to this side here, to this, come from here to this side here in the market, and breaks to this area here that we notice in the market, comes down to break this point that we have here in the market, then we'll actually see some push in the market. And also all these points here are actually very all those description here are just giving us a kind of a direction of what so this month, so for this month, this is just all those points are actually currently going in the market. How can we actually make use of the how can we actually make use of all this information, or to ensure that okay, this is what the market is saying, this is what we need. So now I kind of believe that Bitcoin will actually continue to borrowing the price action to the end of this month. So for this month himself, I'm actually looking at the price still coming down. I don't see the price, because now looking at, if you remember my yesterday's session, I actually talked about the Bitcoin price, how the Bitcoin price has been moving, like looking at from 2019, 2017 thereabouts, 2019, 2022 to 2017, 2022. You will notice that the market in the month of September has actually been, is not actually bullish, as most times been bearish when looking at the market. That is why I actually drew this charts yesterday, that we're actually expecting the market to still come down up to this area when looking at it. So now when looking at the we have September, we just have September, October, November, and December. So for September, I'm actually looking at the market still being bearish when looking at the market, but then the price is actually going to be, and we're actually going to have a very exciting price action in October, leading to the next halving when looking at it on the real sense. So that is why it is very important that we understand all these factors. All these factors are actually very important that we need to take note of when looking at the marketplace. What are the price action? What do we need to take note of when looking at the market movement and all that? All those points here are actually very important that we need to actually take note of when looking at the market movement. What areas do we need to take note of? How can we actually take control of the markets when looking at it on the real sense and all that? So that is just it. So for this month, I'm actually still looking at the markets to be bearish. I'm still looking at the market to be bearish for this month. Why next month? I'm actually looking at we're actually going to see a very, very exciting price action. We're actually going to see a very, very good, exciting price action when looking at the market himself. So for this month thereabout, we're actually looking at the market of still being bearish in the market movement and other. But looking towards next month, looking forward, looking at what next month is, that is October, what October is actually going to bring for. We're actually going to see the action price is, we're actually going to see a very good, exciting action price of the market that will actually lead to the next halving event and all that, because the next halving, I'm actually looking at the next halving to come towards the middle of next year, or the ending, or towards the ending of next year and all that. So it is very, very important that we understand. So now what we actually integrate that is actually next month, looking at the market next and looking at what is actually going to be happening in the market next month, which is one important factor that we must take note of when looking at the market. And so what is actually going on in the market, how can we actually take control of the market? All these points here are actually very, very important. So you can actually tell me your own thoughts. Let me hear your own view about what is actually happening in the market. Let me hear your own personal view about what is actually happening in the market and other. So what do you actually think will actually happen in the market in coming days to come? Do you believe that the market is actually sticking to remain bearish for this month? Yeah, for me, I actually believe the market is actually going to remain bearish for this month and other, which is one important point that we need to know. But looking at what is actually going to be happening ahead of now, looking at next month, the coming of next month, we're actually going to see a very, very good move in the Bitcoin market next month, in which we're actually going to give which is going to give us a kind of a clearer view of what is actually going to happen in coming days to come. So it is very, very important that we understand all these factors we're actually talking about are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market. And so when looking at the market action price of the market, what the market is saying, how we need to actually take control of the market when looking at it of and all that. It is very, very important that we take note of all these points when looking at the market movement. And so what other points, what other description we need to give? So let's look at Pepe. Let's analyze Pepe. Let's go ahead to analyze, give some basic analysis of Pepe. Now, this is Pepe, for example. This is now what is actually our move, what is our prediction price of Pepe as we look ahead? What is our prediction price of Pepe as we move ahead, for example? Now, okay, let me bring this close. Bring this close. If you're listening to me, if you have any question whatsoever, you are free to ask in the chat box as we keep moving ahead in the course of today's session. Please, if you are listening to me and if you have any question whatsoever, you are free to ask on the chat box as we keep moving ahead in the course of today's section. So looking at the markets here, looking at the market movement, what is actually happening in the market. Now, looking at the market movement, what is actually happening in the market from this area here. Now, what do we need to take notes here from the market? Now, if I bring my line here from this area here that we have in the market, from this, let me close this so that we can see it where. Now, looking at what is from this area here, if I bring my movement markets here, let me change this to blue, something blue. Let me change this to blue. Let me make it one ticker. Now, looking at this here from the markets here. Now looking at what is actually happening, looking at this point here that we notice here, and looking at here again, looking at the movement of the markets here of the pepper. I'm trying to explain the pepper market. What is our prediction price of pepper itself and others? So looking at what is actually happening here in the market. Now look at what's actually happening here in the market. You can see this tip here. You can see this tip here and order in the market. You can see this area here that we notice in the market. This area here. You can see this area here. This one just tap again here again in the market. You can see the same move in the market again in the market's place. Another why the other way around. We're looking at the market himself in the other way around. Now you can see the market from this area here that we are noticing. You can see this tap here from this area here that we notice in the market. Another one that actually gave a move again was this area here that we notice in the market. We also add another one again in this area here again in the market. So all those points here are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement. How is the market moving? What is our prediction price when looking at the market movement? And all these points here are actually very, very important that we need to take. So from this area here that we have in the market, from this area here that we have here in the market, you can see from this area here that we have here in the market, you can see the market movement from this area here. Let's just do some basic analysis here. From this area here, you can see the market movement, what is actually happening in the market. Now bringing it up from this area also here again, bringing it up from this area, you can see the movement of the market action price, what is actually happening in the market from this area here again. So all those points here are actually it is very, very important that we understand all those basic points when looking at the market, when looking at what is actually happening in the market. How can we actually take control of the market when looking at it on order? It is very, very important that we take note of all those points when looking at the market himself. What areas do we need to focus on when looking at the market, when looking at the market movement, and all those points are actually very, very important that we need to take. All these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement. And so from this area here, we actually predicted that the market is actually going to come down, break the structure here that we notice here in the market. Then we're actually still going to see a move. We're actually going to see some basic move in the market, like something like this. You might see the market still come up from this area here, still break the structure, still come up a little. You will see some move here. Then we'll actually see the market push up to this area here and other this area here. So if you're looking at going into the market, so you can actually go into the market and just tap to this area here to just take your profits here in the market, another which is a very, very good area for you to take profits when looking at the market. So all those points here, all those points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement. What is actually happening in the market? How can we actually take control of the market when looking at it on the research? Please, if you're listening to me, please kindly to follow my profile, kindly to follow me. If you're yet to start trading, please kindly start trading. It is very, very important. Now is the right time to actually start looking into going into the market. Now is the right time to start looking into investing into the market, because it's actually going to be a very long ride as we keep moving ahead, into the market, trying to get a direction of what is actually happening in the market. And all those points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when analyzing the market, or when trying to say, okay, this is what is actually happening in the market. This is how we can actually take control of the market when looking at. So from this area here, let me bring this here to this, from this area here, this let me bring this. So from this area here, so see, we're still expecting the market to come up to this area. Why this one here is actually little. Why this here? So all this area here, it is very, very important that we understand all those points. All those points are actually very, very important that we need to actually take note of when looking at the market. Like this is actually Pepe trying to give us analysis about what Pepe is actually working on, what we need to take note of when looking at the markets and so. So looking at the Pepe market, looking at the support, is still holding tight based on what we actually have here. The support is actually still holding tight in the market movement, another, which is one important sign that we need to take note of when looking at the market, another. So you can actually tell me your view. You can actually tell me what you view, what is your own market prediction of the Pepe market. What do you feel? What is your own analysis when looking at the Pepe markets? You can actually tell me your own analysis on the chat box as we keep moving ahead in the course of today. So all these are actually basic points. All these are actually basic points that we need to actually all these are actually basic points that we need to actually take note of when looking at the market prediction, how what we need to take note of, how can we actually take note of the market, and all that. It is very, very important that we take note of all those factors when looking at the market movement. What are the areas in which we need to look focus on when looking at the market? You can actually tell me any project you have in your mind that you want us to actually analyze. You can actually tell me on the chat box in which justice is going to be done. So let's go ahead and let's come back to the Bitcoin market. Let's come back to the Bitcoin market. Let's see what is actually happening here. Let's see what is actually happening in the Bitcoin market in this area that we have it here. Let's see what is actually happening in the Bitcoin market. So let me bring this up here again. Let's see what is actually happening here in the Bitcoin market so far. So what is our next action price of the Bitcoin market? What do we actually take note of the market? What is our next action price when looking at the Bitcoin market in itself? And also one point that we need to take note of when looking at the Bitcoin market. Okay, so one point that we need to take note of. Yeah, okay. Someone said, okay, the crypto market is moving forward a little. Hopefully, we will see a more better result. Yeah. But okay, for that, I'll actually tell you that for this month, we're actually not expecting a kind of a massive move in the market for this month, but because if you look at what has actually been happening in the market for a while ago, from the past for the past 5 years, if I'm right, I stand to be corrected. For the past 5 years, if we notice what has actually been happening in the market, we will notice one factor that the Bitcoin that the market has actually in the month of September has actually been bearish. Now you actually see that the market has actually been bearish. If you're looking at, even though towards when the halving period was actually coming about, the market has actually been bearish when looking at the Bitcoin market. But subsequently, what we are actually hoping for that we're actually going to be looking at is that, okay, for this month the market is actually going to be bearish, but October coming on board is actually going to give us a sign of the halving, because halving, we're actually looking at the halving to come on board towards next month. Towards next year, towards the middle of next year or the ending of next year. The way that is, it depends on the way the market news, the economy of the market moves, the how it actually reacts to it. That is what actually shows the right time that the market is actually going to push in the market. But next month we're actually going to see a sign of the halving in coming back, because it has to give a kind of a good positioning that yes, I'm ready to go to the album. Actually ready to go to the moon. So for this month, the market is actually pushing a little bit, but for this month, I'm still seeing the market still coming down, coming to the Bitcoin market. I'm still actually expecting it coming down a little bit. But for next month, I'm actually seeing the Bitcoin market giving a sign that the bearish period is surely around the corner. So all these are actually very, very important point that we need to take note of when looking at the market, when looking at what is actually happening in the market. What are the various points we need to take note of when looking at the market? And all these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market analysis and all that. So it is very, very important that we take note of. It is very, very important that we take note of all these factors when looking at the market, when trying to get a way out on what is actually happening in the market. And all those points here we're actually talking about are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market, when looking at the market area, what we need to take note of it, how can we actually be in control of the market and all that. It's very, very important that we take note of all those factors when looking at the market. So what other point, what other thing that we need to look at when looking at the market is, so let's just look at some basic news. Now you can see the first news I have here is that the Bitcoin price is actually trying to price recover could actually be soon, we could soon fade if Bitcoin fails to supersede the market zone and other. That is one point. And so let's look at the market news. Let's go to the market news in the few minutes that we have left. We have just 15 minutes left. Let's look at the market news to get what we do we have in the market news currently. So I believe you guys are okay. Someone is asking me to analyze. Okay, for that soul, I saw soul and I saw okay, for all this I'll actually be coming live again tomorrow. So because of our time, I'll actually be analyzing all those remaining projects in our tomorrow section. But for today, let me just focus on this Bitcoin and Pepper. While tomorrow I'll be I'll be analyzing all these tokens that you guys have listed out. So all these points are actually very, very important. Let's go ahead to look at the market news. What is the news factor in the market so far? Let's go ahead to look at the market news to get basic information about what the news is saying concerning the marketplace and all these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market or when trying to get areas of what is actually happening in the market. How can we actually be in control of the market itself? Is very, very important that we take note of all these points. Now looking at the crypto, let's check this out first. Looking at this area here, looking at what is actually happening here in the market, what do we notice here in the market? We notice that a lot of projects are actually red currently. You can see the market, so you can see a lot of projects are actually being read and other they are yet to actually we are actually yet to see if there is just only Tron, for example. Tron actually gave a little bit of strength in the market. I'll actually be doing justice to Tron tomorrow, be analyzing what was the movement, what caused this movement of the market and the Tron markets. And so all these points here are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the markets. We can see most of the coin. You can see Dogecoin here, you can see ET here, you can see ETC and other. You can see most of this project. You can see what they actually giving us in the markets and what they were actually giving us in the market. So all these points are actually it is very, very important that we take note of all these factors when looking at the market's movement, when looking at what is actually happening in the market. How can we actually take control of the market? You can see most of these projects say they're actually giving minus. You can see Gala actually gave minus 20 to minus 25. You can see Ape actually minus 25%, Sand minus 23%, and other. You can see them. You can see most of these players actually are giving minus sign because the way the market has been and other, because they have actually been in the bear period and other. They are yet the Bitcoin market model is not in the strong position when looking at the market itself. And so all these points, all this analysis are actually very, very important. That is very, very important for we to understand what's actually happening in the market. What is the prediction price of the market? How can we actually take control of the market when looking at it? It's very, very important that we take note of all these points when looking at the market. You can see the Bitcoin price, you can see the Ether, you can see the Ether, you can see Tara, you can see the BNB, you can see XRP, you can see the USD coin. You can see most of this project. You can see what they've actually been doing in the market space, and which is now, is it a good sign when looking at the market? Is it a good sign when looking at the market position, when looking at what is actually happening in the market? You can see Soul, you can see Dutchman. This is actually the first 10 project that we have in the market when looking at. So all these points are actually very, very important that we need to actually focus on, that we need to take note of when looking at the market. So let's go ahead to look at the market news. You can see based on the market news that we have here, the first market news that we have here in the market. Let's look at the first market news that we currently have here in the market. And all those points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market. And they can see the waves elapse spark speculation as XLP transfer surge. And that is the first news that we actually have here in the market. Let's go ahead and check for more news in the market. Let's check for more news that we need in the market. And so it is very, very important that we understand all those factors here are actually very, very important that we need to take note of and all that. So now, okay, someone some analysts actually predicted, okay, the Bitcoin trade alighted 24,000 for $24,000. Analysts said nothing has changed. Now looking at the market, okay, looking at what the market actually is currently doing, coming up to 25,000 thereabout, nothing has changed in the market. I'm still looking at the market tonight. I actually told you guys I'm still looking at the market, still coming down up to 23 thereabout 24, 23 thereabouts in the market as we keep moving ahead and we keep. So the Bitcoin price weekly closed at 25,900 in focus, but that cannot be the end of the movement of the market. We are just early in the month of September, in which we'll actually still see more bear markets, the bear movement coming on board in the market. So you can see in the reality, nothing has changed, because either a kind of a breakout or a breakout or a breakdown as a technical confirm, or has been technically confirmed or indicated when looking at the market movement and other. So all these points are actually, that is why you need to follow the market news to get what is the latest news about the market. What do we need to take note of when looking at the market and all that? It is very, very important that we take note of all these factors when looking at the market news. What are the factors, what we need to take note of when looking at the market and other. All these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market. Now, coming up here to check, coming up here, let it load finish. We'll actually look deeper into that. You can see now, you can see we have here, okay, let's check this out. Let's check this news out. You can see now the matter of lab, the matter lab. This actually said the Matter Lab co-founder proposed Ethereum Supreme Court on on-chain disputes when looking at it. So this is actually another news coming on board. This is another news coming on board in the market space. Another now, this is actually on-chain, and you can see the Matter CEO, Lab CEO and CEO Alex has proposed that Ethereum court system assembled because similar to real world when looking at this, actually a news in which you can actually go to CoinDeco or Cointelegraph to actually get more information on this news and others. So more news that we actually have in the market. We actually have more news in the market, and this area here, what do we have here? You can see now this first news that we have here, you can see it here, the SEC actually delayed the list sports Bitcoin ETF decision for all application, including BlackRock and also Fidelity. When looking at the market, and these are news that we need to actually look into the market to get more deeper analysis and more view about what is actually happening in the market. And so all these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement. What is the news action price of the market? What we need to take note of the market? What are the areas of interest we need to focus on when looking at the market? When looking at how the market is going, what are the various factors we need to consider when looking at the market? And the news factors actually has a very bigger role to play when looking at the market itself. And so these are all the news. Now you can see now this SEC, look at it here, the SEC delay sports Bitcoin ETF decision for all applicants, including the BlackRock and Fidelity. The second news we have here, we also have here, you can see the $1 trillion crypto opportunity, reward assets tokenization. This is a news also which you can actually go to the market CoinDex to actually check for more updates about what the market is saying. And also we have the large Bitcoin holders accumulate 1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin as price waivers when looking at the markets and other. So just imagine large Bitcoin holders accumulate 1.5 billion billion worth of Bitcoin as the price waivers in the market. These are the three top news that we have in the market. We're looking at the market space, we're looking at what is actually currently going in the market space. It is very, very important that we understand all these factors. Are actually very, very important that we need to understand, that we need to take note of when looking at the market. What is actually happening in the market space? How can we actually take control of the market? And all these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement area. Now you can see the US Securities and Exchange Commission has delayed till October to make decision on all the spot Bitcoin exchange trader funds application filed by the Blackpool and Wisdom Tree and Wise Origin and other in early this year, according to the agency. Filling on in that is on Thursday and other in the market space. So they are actually trying to make, they are trying to say that okay, they are going to move the decision to around October, and we're actually expecting the market to actually move around September. And that's what I actually, you remember I actually told you guys that we're actually expecting a very good move in the market around September, so around October, when looking at the market himself. So for this month, there's yet to be a kind of a very good position, or a lot of decision has not yet been made in the market of okay, this is how we want the market to move. This is the area in which we want the market to move to, and we are here to actually say a very good area to actually predict or to actually give us a kind of a strength on how to actually move in the market and other. So, but it is very, very important that we understand all these factors. All these factors are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market movements, when looking at what is actually happening in the market. How can we actually take control of the market when looking at it on the way? So now we're actually expecting, now looking at the US, the SEC Commission have actually said they're actually delaying till around October. They're actually delaying till around October. And the month of October, we're actually expecting the market to actually give us a sign of the next halving coming on board when looking at the market. So already down in shape on the day. Bitcoin fell further on the news. So because of that announcement in Jamaica, you can see, you notice that Bitcoin actually went down a little bit. Now it's actually went down to around 4.1% over the last 24 hours in which that news was actually stated. And also that the SEC began reviewing on the latest slate of application, both in crypto, AV, and traditional financial firm. The applicants hope to launch the first spot Bitcoin ETF, which advocates their have urged would allow the greater retailer investment of Bitcoin market, how the market is actually going to go, while saving investors a job of getting certain a wallet after directly. And so all these actually news that you can actually go on Coindex to actually get more information about them. And that is very, very important that we understand all this information when looking at the market, when looking at the market movement, what is actually happening in the market, how can we actually take control of the market. So that is the first news that we have here. And the second one the second most popular news that we have here in the market also, let's check for the second most popular news that we have here also in the market. So all this point, that's why it is very, very important that we stay up to date in the market analysis to get basic information about what is actually happening in the market, what areas of interest do we need to take note of when looking at the market itself. And all these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market itself. And also, let's bring this now. You can see now the $1 trillion crypto opportunity, reward asset tokenization, and let's check for news now. At this time, at what we hope to be the end of bitter crypto winter in history, offer foresight of according to the this technology adoption of a predicted wave. And when looking at the news, and there is something that you can actually go on the market cap to actually check what we understand by the tokenization of reward assets, and the tokenization of reward assets, in which you can actually go to coin market dex to actually check more, get more updates on that, on the news. And so all these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market space, when looking at the news factor, what do we need. And also we also have the third one, in which we have here, in which large Bitcoin holders. We also have here, in which we have for the large Bitcoin holders, you can see it here in the market, you can see it here. Large Bitcoin holders actually accumulate 1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin as a price waivers when looking at the market, and which this actually gives strength to the waves. We have what we call waves in the crypto market. This actually gives strength when looking at the waves market, when looking at how the market is actually going to go. And all those points here are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement. Now, large Bitcoin price investors waves in the crypto term seems underrated by this recent weakness of price, and substantially increase their holdings. Now, data by crypto analysts has addressed the holding of at least 0.1% of Bitcoin supply, worth more than 500 million, increase their slash of the total total of 1.5 billion in the last 2 weeks of in the that was around last month of thereabout, that was around August in the market space, and that is to show you the strength in which a lot of people are actually looking at that is just in preparation of the halving period coming on. But now the whales are entitled to control large amount of digital assets. They are subject, they are purchase and sell have a sizable impact on the market, and though the greater watch are closing following their behavior to anticipate the market movement and all that. So a lot of people are actually looking at the market to anticipate, okay, this huge amount of money have been invested into the market. What is the market? How is the market going to react to all this? So it is very that's why it is very important that we take note of all these points when looking at the market movement, looking at what is actually happening in the market. How can we actually take control of the market? And all those points here are actually very important. And as we keep moving, it's very important that we take note of all these points when looking at the market movement, what is actually happening in the markets. And I believe you guys are actually following me and getting what I'm actually dishing out to you guys in the course of today's session. Tomorrow we'll be back again tomorrow to give more analysis, deeper analysis about the market, what is actually happening in the market, how can we actually take control of the market. It's very important that we take note of all these factors when looking at the market. Now the purchase happened during a period when Bitcoin price strong for around 2 month low. Now, apart from that, and also temporarily lifted by the important costs. That was what actually now the market actually went low. What actually now increased the price was actually when the SEC when the court actually made decision looking at the Bitcoin spot which actually caused a little bit of push in the market, and which is actually a good sign. That's tell you that news actually has its own effect when looking at the market space. And so all these news are actually very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market space. And so you can actually go to Cointelegraph to actually get more updates or more information about what is actually happening in the market, what we need to take note of when looking at the market movement, and which is an important sign that we need to focus on when looking at the market. And that is very important that we take note of all these factors when looking at the news, when looking at how the market is moving, how can we actually take control of the market and others. So that's all what we'll be talking about in the course of today's session. I believe you guys have gained a lot from what I've actually shared with you guys in the course of today's session. But live again tomorrow for another interesting conversation where we'll come together tomorrow to learn more about the market, to get more understand. I have some project that we'll actually be analyzing tomorrow before we get into the latest news about again in the market. What new news do we have in the Bitcoin market, in the ETH market, and other news again that we have in the market. So thank you so much. Tomorrow I'm analyzing Soul and other project that you guys have thrown also, and other project that has been listed out in the course of today's session. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone that's actually connected live in the course of today's session. I believe you guys have gained a lot from what I've actually shared with you guys. Join me same time tomorrow for another interesting conversation where we'll come together and learn more about the market, to get more understanding about what the market is saying, how we can actually take control of the market, and that is very important. Thank you so much. See you same time tomorrow for another interesting conversation. Bye guys, and enjoy the rest of your day. Stay blessed guys.